Welcome to another of the series of Java Breaks with Basis, a series of events designed to educate and inform with a mixture of presentation and demonstration of the latest Basis products. Today's topic is painless report writing. And we're going to look at the Basis reporting components to illustrate the capabilities of our report writing tools. The report writing components we'll cover in today's session are Basis's stored procedure, SPROC, a feature of the Basis database management system. This enables us to do report writing without the use or the need of a data dictionary. We'll also look at iReport, an open source Java-based WYSIWYG report design tool. One can utilize commercially available products or consider tools such as iReport. We'll focus on iReport in today's demonstration. Next, we'll look at BBJasper, a Basis-provided report viewing utility that allows you to encapsulate your report in a BBJ window on your desktop. Finally, we'll touch on those that are still in the Pro 5 and Visual Pro 5 world. We'll show you how you too can run a report that's in BBJ. We'll utilize the new upcoming XCALL functionality, a verb that's been added to Visual Pro 5 and Pro 5 Rev 10. So let's look at the report writing steps. Our first step is to discern the report requirements, usually provided by a user or a department. Armed with those report requirements, we need to determine how we can get access to the data necessary to populate that report. So we'll need to map access to that data. Then we'll need to design the report, preferably utilizing a graphical user interface to do drag and drop of the various components and do our layout of our report. Finally, we'll need to create the report output, either on screen, to a printer, or in various file formats, be it PDF for faxing or emailing, HTML to view in a web browser, or perhaps an Excel file format, amongst many others that are available. So let's look at mapping our access to the data. This is going to be dependent upon the report design tool. Most nowadays, commercially and open source, are SQL based, so based on the structured query language. So how would you utilize those tools with Basis's data? Basis provides two SQL access methods for your consideration. One is the SQL syntax with the Basis data dictionary that's provided by the SQL engine. Basis SQL engine is compliant with components of the SQL 92, the SQL 99, and the SQL 2003 standards. Have a look at the Basis documentation online, type in SQL grammar, and do a search to read more. The other methodology to reach your data is to utilize Basis's SQL stored procedure call syntax. Let's look at that Basis SQL stored procedure functionality. One of the prime benefits is there's no need for a data dictionary. You can call this like any Basis program is called. And that shouldn't be surprising, because a stored procedure, a Basis stored procedure, is a Basis program. It's callable from any SQL-capable language or process. That would be Visual Pro 5, BBJ, or any third-party language that is SQL-capable. You have access to the full BBJ language syntax, such as read or read record. You have access to the SQL engine, and you have access to Java. So any business logic that might be contained within your existing application program can be embedded in your stored procedure logic to give you the fastest possible access to your data. You're able to pass parameters into the stored procedure, and you're able to have a returned result set from the stored procedure, a result set which is in common with the result of a SQL select type statement. Now your data for your Basis stored procedure can be under control of Pro 5. And so therefore you'd give access to BBJ, which is where the stored procedure resides, via shared locking. You could also retain control of the Pro 5 data server and direct BBJ's access to the data via the Pro 5 data server. And finally, you could use BBJ services to control access to your data using the Basis database management system. If you had Pro 5 and Visual Pro 5 clients that needed to have access to the data, you could give that access to it via the BBJ Pro5 data server. Then we have a wizard. This is a wizard provided in the Enterprise Manager that allows you to facilitate the creation of your stored procedure. It creates a program template, and you can offer up a string template to describe the result set, and the Enterprise Manager wizard will create the program template appropriately. So let's have a look at some of that in action. Here in the Enterprise Manager, we need to add a database. By adding a database, we're then able to define various stored procedures to gain access to our data. No need for the data dictionary, as I said earlier, but we do need to have a home for these stored procedures. We need to add a basis database definition. So let me hand over to Nick Decker, our engineering supervisor, who's going to do a demonstration of an age analysis report.
So for our aging report, we're going to go from this, which is a legacy version of the Chili Company customer data file. It's a direct file that has the customer number in the key, and then that information is not repeated in the record at all. We also make use of an external sort file so that we can read through the customer file and sort the customers alphabetically. We're going to read through the information and end up with a very nice report such as this. We'll start by running Enterprise Manager, selecting the Chili Company database, and then click on the Procedures tab. This gives us a list of all of the stored procedures currently defined in the database. We're going to create a brand new one called AR Aging Legacy. So we'll click the plus button, and this allows us to define our brand new stored procedure. We'll type in the name and a description for it. It defaults to the source location for the stored procedure program file. We'll take the default for that. We check the button that says has a result set. And now we can input our parameters. We're going to have one parameter called lower limit. It will be a numeric parameter, an input parameter, precision 6. And we're allowed to enter a comment for that. So we'll say that it is the lowest amount to report on. Values exceeding this amount will be included in the report. The next step is to click the button Build Source Template. Clicking the Build Source Template button causes Enterprise Manager to create a template of the program that will be used for our stored procedure. It's a fully functional template that will return an empty result set to the calling third-party client. And all we'll have to do after that is make a few modifications to it to get live data to return to the client. So we'll click on the button, say OK, and now we are given the opportunity to provide a template for the return result set for the client. We've already got a template in mind, so I'll copy that from my existing program and paste it in. You can see that the string template defines the customer, company, phone number, and all of the balances. Select OK. Enterprise Manager tells us that it has successfully created the template. So all that's left to do now is save that stored procedure. The new stored procedure now shows up in the list along with the description and some SQL code here that lets us test it right away. I can copy that, go over to the SQL tab, paste it in, and click on Execute. And even though it returned an empty record set, you can see that it's defined the rows for the result set that will be sent back to the client. When we click on the stored procedure, we're given the opportunity to edit it and also look at a read-only view of the program that Enterprise Manager created. Rather than look at it in here, we're going to load up the IDE and edit the program there. Here we have the araginglegacy.prc program file. This is the source code for the store procedure that Enterprise Manager created for us. You can see that it goes through the effort of getting the store procedure data, retrieving the input parameter for lower limit and setting that to a value. And then what it does right now, because it's a template program, is it creates the in-memory record set, sets it, and then exits. We'll want to modify that code to actually fill in the in-memory record set with the real data from our data files. So the first step is to select that section of code that sets the empty record sets and exits. So we'll delete that code. The next step is to modify the code that gathers the data from the data file. Right now it's set up to dim a record, has a placeholder to open up a data file, and then with the while when loop, it'll iterate through the data file, reading the records, setting the field values or the return record set, and then eventually passing that back to the client. We want to replace this code with very, very similar code that we've got that will reuse our existing business basic logic from another application. I've already got that code in the clipboard, so I'll select this portion of code and paste it in, and now we'll look at the differences. Instead of opening up a single file, we're going to open up two different files. The first is the data file $, which is our customer legacy file, and the second is our sort file. The customer legacy file is a direct file that contains the cusnum in the key and the rest of the information in the record. Customer sort file is a sort file that allows you to read through the customer table and sort them alphabetically by company. So we've put in our code to open up the two data files, and in our while loop now we're going to get the sort key from the sort file using the key function, and then we're going to use that key in our read record from the customer legacy file, and we're going to read that into rec $. Once we have rec $, since everything is a fixed field length, we're going to assign all our variables, such as the current balance, over 30, over 60, and so on, using offsets into the rec $ string variable. We're also going to create another variable called total, which will be the sum of all of those balances. The next step is we're going to insert an if, end if, and in there we're going to check the total and make sure that it exceeds the lower limit that the customer supplied when they called the store procedure. In the case that the total is greater than the lower limit, typically 0, or if they wanted to filter out records where customers just had a few cents worth of balance, they could put in a small number like $10. Assuming that total exceeds the lower limit, we'll create an empty record set data object, set the field values for all of the fields, and insert that. We're doing a little bit of data manipulation here with the phone number, which comes through just as a series of digits. And we're making a modification here to insert the area code in parentheses. Once the record has been inserted into the record data object, it continues on through the loop, checking through every single record in the customer legacy file. And when it's done, it'll set the return record set using my result set here, and then the store procedure will exit. So we'll save that, and now we'll test it again from Enterprise Manager. Go back to the SQL, and this time we're going to put in a real value instead of the -999. We'll say I want to report on all of the customers with a balance greater than 0. Click on Execute, and our code has run and returned all of the customers in alphabetical order by company that have a current balance with us. We want to weed out some of our customers. We can test our lower limit function by putting in a number such as 50, clicking on Execute, and now only the customers with a balance greater than $50 will be returned. So our stored procedure is up and running and working well.
Our next step is to design the report. We have simple ad hoc report design functionality in the BBJasper utility, but we could look to third-party report writers like commercial report writers or open source report writers. The one that we're going to look at in our demonstration today is the iReport Java open source NetBeans-based tool. It's a WYSIWYG platform-independent report designer. It gives you the ability to use the report wizard to generate your report. You can do custom reports, or you could take an ad hoc report generated by BBJasper and extend and enhance that ad hoc report within the iReport design tool. The output of the iReport design tool is a Jasper reports definition file, a .jrxml file, or a .jasper compiled report file. So the iReport is utilizing the NetBeans open source tool, and so the look and feel should be familiar to those of you who are familiar with the Basis IDE, also built on a NetBeans open source project. In the central section is the WYSIWYG component, the report preview. On the right-hand side, we see various tools and palettes that are used to do your report design. I'll hand you back to Nick to see iReport design in action.
So we run iReports, and we're going to run the wizard to create a brand new report. So we'll select File New, and we're going to use the cherry landscape option for the report. You can see that it comes with multiple options and templates for reports. And we'll launch the report wizard. We'll take the default for the report name and select a Chili Company data source that's already been set up. And now it prompts us to enter an SQL statement. We can use the exact same statement that we used before in Enterprise Manager. So we'll copy and paste that in. When we clicked on the next button, iReports ran that stored procedure and got a list of return columns back from BBJ. Now it's presenting us with all the fields that are possible to include into the report. We'll select this button to include every single field into the report. Gives us the opportunity to group the information, which we'll skip. And that's it, we're done. So we'll click on Finish, and iReport will create the report for us. So here's the generated report from the wizard. We're in the designer mode, and if I click on the preview button, then it generates the report with live data from the database. The report looks pretty good in general, but there are a few things that I'd like to change. For example, the title says Cherry Title, and all of our numbers here should be right aligned and perhaps formatted for dollars and cents. Changing the title is pretty easy to do. Just click on the designer button, select the title object, double click, and you can enter the new title. We'll call it AR Aging Summary. Notice that the new title didn't fit within the parameters for that element, so we can simply drag and resize the title element. It's pretty easy to modify the numerical fields as well. Select one, hold down the Control key, and keep on selecting the rest. And then on the right-hand side, it will give us a listing of all of the objects and their possible parameters. So one of the things that we wanted to change here was the alignment. The numbers are left aligned, and they'll look better when they're all right aligned. So we'll change the horizontal alignment to right. The next thing is to choose a pattern. This is similar to an output mask. By clicking the button, we can look at all the options. It's got various options for different types of data. We'll select this one to get 2 decimal places and put negative values in parentheses. Now when we preview the report, we'll see our brand new title, AR Aging Summary. And you can see that all of the numbers here are formatted the way we would expect. They're right aligned, and they've got a decimal point and 2 places after that for cents. You can do more advanced things in iReport as well. For example, by looking at the variables here, it comes predefined with several variables. for example, the page number and page count and column count and so on and so forth, that are already used in parts of the report. I can create a new variable. I'll call this one total 30, and the class will be a big decimal. The calculation type is going to be a sum based on the whole report, and the expression, and I can pick one of the columns here, is our column called over 30. So after selecting that, iReports will now maintain a variable called total_30 that I can use elsewhere in my report, and it's going to contain a sum of all of the data in this column. I can take this total 30 and drag it and drop it over into my report into the summary band, either on the report or by clicking over here in the report inspector. We can continue modifying and polishing the report until we're finally satisfied with something that looks pretty good. The next step after we've got a good report is figuring out how to incorporate that report into a new or existing BBJ application.
Having designed our report, we now want to create the report output. And we're going to turn to the BBJasper utility, BBJasper, in order to provide that functionality. The BBJasper utility has more function than merely report output. It's a report writer, a designer, and a reviewer utility. The design wizard is fully supported in BBJ 10, but it's available for your preview right now in the nightly builds. We also have a design API that is fully supported in BBJ 10. The design API allows you to create your own report writer and hook it into the Jasper report output capabilities of BBJasper. There's a report API, there's a report viewer window, which is the focus of our concern at this point, and we have a report viewer control. So you can either view the report within a window or within a control inside of an existing window. So this is what our demo report looks like. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see the familiar BBJ coffee cup that tells us that this is running in a BBJ window. And here we see the viewer control. So we see the report rendered inside a control on a screen. So we have a grid at the top showing our ledger of accounts, and below that is actually the viewer control showing us the output report. Let's hand you back to Nick and see how we can view the report with just a few lines of code.
To demonstrate this ability, we'll again load up the IDE, and we've got a short program here that demonstrates how to do that. It makes use of a new BBJ utility called BBJasper, and as you can see, the code is fairly simple. We start off by getting the BBJ API, defining our report that we just created in iReport. We have a connect string to the database. We'll create a new Jasper report. We'll tell it to fill the report. We'll create a new viewer window and show the window. So now when we run the program, BBJ displays the report. The end user is free to do an awful lot with this report because it comes with a fully functional viewer window. For example, I can set the zoom levels and zoom in and out. I can also fit the report to height or fit the report to width. If the report contains several pages, I could navigate through it. I also have a refresh button to re-query the database. I've got the option to print my report, and I can also save my report. By clicking on the Save button, you can see that we've got several options. We can save it as a PDF, HTML, XML, a single or multiple sheet Excel spreadsheet, and so on and so forth.
For those of you, though, who are still in the Visual Pro 5 world, you can run the iReport from Visual Pro 5. We need the BBJasper utility, the report viewer capability, but we can make that callable from Visual Pro 5 via the XCALL syntax. So for example, we could have XCALL and create the program called create_iReport.bbj, and we have an entry point as the label age_analysis, and we'll pass it some parameters via report_palm $. We can share the data between the BBJasper utility and our Visual Pro 5 code, and that's bidirectional. Our choices in order of preference should be: the fastest way is to use the BASIS database management system, where BBJ controls the data. BBJ is a multi-threaded implementation versus Pro 5 Data Server, which is a multi-processor implementation. So BBJ's implementation consumes far less resource and becomes very much more efficient, especially as the user count grows. But still a fast way to access the data might be to use the Pro 5 Data Server, where Pro 5 controls the data, and BBJ can talk to the Pro 5 Data Server to gain access to that data. The slowest method would be to use shared file access. In other words, let the operating system control it via a map drive or a Samba share. And we would certainly not recommend that solution. So here's a diagrammatic representation of our deployment. We have both Visual Pro 5 and BBJ on the clients connecting to the BBJ database management system at the server. Visual Pro 5 and the BBJ clients consume a single license on the desktop. Right, let's have a look at XCALL in action. I'm going to mimic the running of a Pro 5 type session. Of course, I'm using Windows here, so I'm using Visual Pro 5. We're going to run on the client side, and what we're going to do is we're going to consume a Jasper report. So we're running a Visual Pro 5 program again, as we see in the top left corner from this icon, and we're going to run the add-on invoice report. This is what we ship with our demonstration programs with BBJ. And so that invokes the add-on manufacturing company Jasper report. We can do our drill downs. And we see the sales for the month, the invoices for the month for Everest Industries. And again, if we want to look at a particular invoice, let's say we want to select invoice 5015, we can drill down into that. Right, so all of that functionality you're familiar with. As you see from the top left corner, this is a BBJ program. But this has all been invoked from within our Visual Pro 5 code. So much like you would call any other Visual Pro 5 program, you're now able to call a BBJ program. So in summary, what have we seen today? We've seen how we can leverage the power of BBJ and Java. By utilizing BBJ's stored procedure functionality, we can enable access to legacy data in the fastest way possible. That could be Pro 5 data. It could be data in the BASIS database, controlled by BBJ services. We've seen how we can use a WYSIWYG report designer. The example we've used today is the Java open source iReport design tool. And we can also then round it off with the BBJasper utility to view our report on the desktop. And then finally, for those of you in the Visual Pro 5 world, we've shown you how you could call that from Visual Pro 5 using the new XCALL functionality that'll be available in Visual Pro 5 Rev 10. Thank you for watching this Java break with BASIS. We hope you've had some value out of today's session. Please look online on our website to see more Java breaks from BASIS. Past Java breaks are available for your review, and we've also posted the Q&A questions and answers for past Java breaks for you to examine. The next Java break and some training. The next Java break is Barista Perks with no effort. That's going to be held on March the 10th, 2010, wherein we'll show you some of the value that you get out of Barista with no additional coding effort. Features such as role-based security, the built-in SQL inquiry engine, just to name a few. It'll be held at the same time, same place. And we're going to add an additional time, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, the last Java break before daylight savings begins. And if you found today's session on Painless report writing interesting and you want to get some more information, why don't you attend the upcoming training? It will be held on Tuesday, 16th of March, from your desktop. This is a web-based training class. It's $395, and there may be some discounts that you can avail yourself of. So please contact your sales representative, go online and register for the training that will be coming up on Tuesday the 16th of March. Let's take your questions at this stage.